Hey guys, thanks for coming back and checking out In Your Mind. Today we are with Matt Iske, and he is an amazing entrepreneur here in San Diego. We go in deep, and this is a true deep dive with Matt. He talks about his history, his life, his struggles, his pains, and all the techniques and things that he's used on his own, found them on his own to really master self-awareness and get him to a place in life that he is today. You do not want to miss this one. You are going to take away so much. So go ahead, check it out. Hey guys, welcome back to In Your Mind, and a big welcome to Matt. Matt, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invitation. This is cool. It's unfortunate we have to do it over Zoom, but it's better than nothing.
Better than nothing. It's that. Stay at home, stay safe, right? That's what we're trying to do.
Exactly.
So I'm really excited to have you on because we briefly chatted beforehand, and I mentioned, I just moved to San Diego 7 months now, I guess, in August of last year.
Okay.
And I don't know what happened, but on my social media, you must have populated or something, because I've been following you, and then obviously then the businesses you run and things like that, just what you've been doing. It's been so amazing, and I really want to get into that. But before we do, I think we have to start where I start with everybody, which is I want to know a little bit about you as a child. Like, where did you come from? Let's start with that story.
That's a great. I always tell people, like, nobody would have ever recognized me as a kid. I was like the cliche, like stereotypical outcast kid. I grew up in San Diego. I grew up in a little bit of a rougher part for a few years of my life. It was kind of like a harder part of San Diego. There were, gunshots at night, and there were bullet holes in the wall and that kind of stuff. And then my dad got a better job, and we ended up moving up into like North County, like Rancho Bernardo area. And I started going to school, the Powell Unified School District. And I was just this kid that, like, I didn't fit in. I'm an only child. There was definitely some hardship at home, and I was just really scared of the world. I was scared of raising my hand to go to the bathroom in class. I was scared of talking to the kids. I would like fake sick or play sick or ditch class or just not go to school because I was bullied a lot as a kid. And I just really was terrified of the world. And then there was a moment when I was around 16 where my mom had to go to the hospital, and it was like an overnight thing. She went in, we called it exploratory surgery, and she had a 10% chance to live. And it was like overnight. I was on winter break. I was 16 and a half, something like that. And I wanted to be cool the whole time I was in school. And when I finally got into high school, I had a rat tail in middle school, and I shaved it off, and I started working out, and, I started to get friends, and people started to pay attention to me, and I started to play with the football team and do all the like cliche cool things. And started to get into drugs a little bit, and started to go to parties, and, just do all the stuff that people do when they feel like they want to be accepted and they want to be cool at that stage in their life. Mom went to the hospital, and it was just this pivotal moment where overnight it seemed like I had to become an adult. The timing was really interesting because my dad worked all the time, and my mom was the one that took me to school. So the timing was interesting because I was taking my driver's license test like 2 days before we went back to get off of winter break. And if I didn't pass that test, I wouldn't have had a way to get to school. We couldn't really afford a school bus, couldn't really afford anything. So passed the driver's test. And then all of a sudden it was like, here's the keys to a car, and figure out how to way to get to school, figure out how to way to pay for your insurance, pay for your gas, get a job, get yourself to school, get yourself to the hospital because your mom might die. And that was the moment. It was like shy kid to adult, figure your life out.
And your mom, how did that? So she's okay?
Yeah. She made a full recovery. They never really knew what it was, and she was in ICU for a month, and then the hospital for another 3 months, and she made a full recovery. And it's just one of those things. Like, it was miraculous, and it was a very powerful force in my life because it sort of like shoved me into the world, and I had to figure out, like, okay, I'm an adult now. Figure out life.
That transition you talked about that you had from, what is it, like middle school to high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
What changed then?
That was due to the bullying. I had long hair. I was pretty chubby. I was unathletic. I was scared of anything physical. I tried to get out of PE. I was scared of the kids. I had a rat tail, so the kids would like pull my hair till it came out of my head. And I just made a choice at a young age. Like I always looked up to people in like movies, like the action stars, like ripped, and they had muscles, they had the girls, and they had all that stuff. And I was like, maybe I should do something about this. So I started working out like 3 weeks before I started high school. I shaved my head and started working out, and just made a real change. It was like a young me. It's hard to really explain the thought process, but it was just like I was in a lot of pain. I didn't understand the morals or the values or the thought processes behind it, but I was in a lot of pain, and I was like, okay, if I start working out, maybe something will change. So I grabbed, my mom had like these purple, like 3-pound jazzercise dumbbells. I started doing curls, and I've been working out ever since, and I've been deep in the athletics world. It really opened up a path for me to get into the athletics world. I was a professional boxing coach for 7 years, and but that was that transition from middle school to high school was just me being in pain, and like maybe this will help, and it really helped.
Did you ever suffer from like anxiety or depression because of it?
Oh, deeply. I think I'm much more of an anxious person than a depressed person. I'm much more worried than I am sad. Typically anxiety is recognized as like future thinking, and depressed is more recognized as like past thinking. And I definitely, it's been tied into my business. It's been tied into everything. It was the reason why, like, it just came from being a scared kid. And I think there's a lot in my childhood that created that, but it was always like, what's going to happen? They're not going to say yes. They're not going to want me to hang out with them. I just felt better by myself, and was a very socially anxious kid. Like all the way into my 20s, I remember one of my first businesses that I started that turned into the current nonprofit that I run. I was terrified to make a phone call at 22, to call somebody on the phone and pitch what we were doing, or just make a connection with somebody. It was like literally shaking. It was one of the craziest experiences ever but it really also opened my mind to being more introspective of, I'm anxious, but if I think about it, I'm safe right now. So what am I worried about? And I kind of stumbled on that thought process on my own. And it opened a huge window for me to kind of try to figure out what was going on in my head, what was actually setting that up.
And so now, being this super successful adult in shape, I know the answer to this, but you still feel some of those thoughts every now and then? Like, do they come back?
Yeah. What I always tell people is they never go away. You just get better at dealing with them.
Yep.
And it's one of those things. Historically, my worst times are in the mornings. It's been really good lately. For the last 7 years of my life or so, I've had a really deep morning routine that has really shifted my life. And like, I wake up and I don't look at my phone. I don't talk to anybody. I don't look at a TV, and I just sit at a piece of paper. I sit at a journal and I write, like, first thing, straight out of bed to desk, writing immediately, and just thinking about the things in my life. And that really, really helped. The mornings were a really rough time for me. I would wake up and like the only thoughts in my head were like, nothing's going to work. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough for this. All the people are going to say no. I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. My team's going to leave me. Everything in the morning was just negative.
Yeah.
And that practice was like digging myself out of the hole every single morning.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Actually, amazing. Like, no one would ever know my stuff either, right? Like, I'm very similar. Like, grew up in Washington in a sort of migrant community, and like our windows would get shut out, and a lot of crazy stuff that would happen. And I grew up in same thing, like constant anxiety, like just constant. And up until adulthood, like mid-20s probably, like I had to go to the doctor just because like I could not handle, I just get sick. That's how my body reacted. So like the minute I was too anxious and it was becoming too much, I never had a panic attack. I would just start getting sick everywhere.
Wow.
So, and like, it's something even now, like I still, with my business, I try and always incorporate like getting to know people and hearing their story and seeing like, how can we connect, right? And build something off of authenticity. It's just, I love this because you're right. I would have never guess any of that. And that's
Yeah,
why I think people need to share it more, right? Like, because we
I
need
agree.
to know those stories.
I agree. Yeah, it's something that, I mean, I haven't encountered anybody in my professional life or in my personal life that once you dig in a little bit or once they feel safe enough to share, that hasn't struggled with something like that. And I
Yeah.
think all of the topics are relatively new. Like I graduated high school in 2010. And when I was in middle school, anxiety, I mean, that middle school for me was like 2003, 2006, like anxiety wasn't really a term. We didn't throw that around. Like, oh, you were just shy. Like, you were just
Yeah.
nervous. Like, we didn't really recognize those things. So I think that all of these things are relatively new. And the more that they come out and the more that people kind of identify with them and the more they feel safe to share, I don't think I've met anybody like some of the hardest fighters that I've met, the most successful business owners. I mean, whatever. I think we're all kind of in the same boat and
Yeah.
we're all
And I
trying to
love
figure out how to navigate that thing.
even hearing it too, like how it sort of manifests its way in such different ways for different people.
Mm-hmm.
Like yours in the morning, mine was always at night.
Yeah.
I mean, still really like at night, of just like, I have to plan the night before. If I think anything difficult could possibly happen the next day, I have to like go through those situations all night long to think of every kind of result that could come of it so that I'm prepared for any result that comes.
Right.
And so in the morning, I'm like so like adrenaline ready because all I've been doing is prepping all night.
You've lived it 100
by
times.
morning, I'm so effective in the morning. But then like by like 3 p.m., like I'm spent every day because I would do that. I don't do that now, but up until probably a year and a half ago, like it was heavy like that.
Yeah, I hear it. It's something we all are trying to navigate. It's the brain, man. The brain is a crazy thing.
I know. That's why I got to learn about it, right?
Exactly.
So you went through all that. You came out on the other side, and I know, like you said, it never goes away. You just start dealing with it in a better way.
Yeah.
And you have been able to find paths on your own, right?
Yes.
Like you're finding these paths yourself.
Yeah.
How?
I mean, it was kind of me figuring out what worked for me and the way that I try to visualize it for people and the way that it's always represented itself in my head is that I always felt like I was this kid that was like, there were all these tall adults standing around me and I was this kid and I had this like gem or this like piece of coal that I was holding in my hands. And I knew that there was something good in it. It's weird. This is always the way it's appeared in my brain. I knew that there was something good. And all of the people around me were always saying like, oh, you're not doing it right. You need to go back to school. You need to, don't do that. Be like the other people. And I like everybody's on this golden road where they're on this opportunity. And for some reason I'm over in the bushes with a machete with my little piece of coal trying to like keep it safe. And that really started for me in high school. I barely graduated high school. It's funny. When I got my teaching credential to teach entrepreneurship, I had to go into the school and get my transcript to like get the credential, and they had to double check it to make sure that I graduated. She looked at it and she goes, "Are you sure you got your diploma?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure." but barely graduating, I went to a homeschool credit recovery program where they basically give you packets of work every single week, and you're not at the school, and you can go and like all you have to do is go once a week to take the test, and that was a huge unlock for me. Because then I was going to get a job and then I was making my own money and my mom was in the hospital and I got a car and I figured out that when I could do things on my own, if I could like see it from a different perspective and I didn't have to be with everybody else and go at everybody else's speed and I could see it for myself and kind of like take it apart and figure it out, that was my strength. And I didn't really realize it at the time. I mean, looking back, it makes sense, but that was something that it helped me get through school. And then I went and I got a job at a wine bar. Like I was serving wine and bussing tables and doing that kind of stuff. And it just allowed me to kind of be outside the path. I tried a whole bunch of different stuff and really just stuck to that idea of like remembering that the one time I was on my own in my entire life, because you're in your school system your entire life, the one time I tried something different, it really worked. And I wanted to figure out what that was. And it was really just me doubling down on like, I get that everybody else is saying, I mean, especially in 2010, it was like college was the golden world, entrepreneurship and Instagram. I mean, Instagram was founded in 2010. There was no hashtag entrepreneur. There was none of that. It was just like, go to school, get your degree, get a job. If you weren't doing that, people were laughing at you. And I mean, there's countless stories of people telling me that I was a failure, and like my best friends, my family, everybody thought that I was just an idiot, and
Yeah.
I just held on to that idea of there's something in this. If I do it by myself, if I do something different than everybody else is doing and do it my way, that that's the way I function. You know, there
Yeah.
was a lot of self-awareness in it.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
I mean, it really is amazing.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
I think you're right. Like, there's something about people that are entrepreneurs that they have not a similar story, but there is a hardship or something that and they do seem to be people that find themselves, whether it's mentally or actually alone, right? And trying to navigate things on their own, which I think brings them to this.
I call it like for me personally, I call it like a positive psychosis, because one of like the deepest driving factors that we have as human beings is like being a part of the herd and being accepted. And our brain like summarizes that if you're not a part of a group evolutionarily, you're probably going to die. So not being a part of a group means death. And for whatever reason, I was like, okay, I see everybody else is going that way. I'm going to go over here. And I think I am like slightly crazy to be able to do that.
I see, this is like the woo-woo side of me, but I see like an energy worker. I've seen an energy worker for a long time.
Yeah.
And like, I met her, and like within the first 5 minutes, she was like, you're constantly in like the state of fight or flight.
Yeah.
And it's similar to that. I don't know why, but I feel that same way constantly. Everyone's going to be here. I know then that means I have to be here. Yeah. So I just have to survive constantly through life. Yeah. But I look at it that way too. And I don't usually like to tell a therapist this, but I do say like that negative that some people see of like, oh, I'm analyzing or I'm too in my head. Right. That's also the reason that I'm successful at this side, right? Like I can I can do these things that other people can't do really quickly.
Yeah, it's a gift for sure.
Yeah. So you're harnessing all of this, and you've harnessed it in so many different areas.
Yeah.
Tell me what's going on today.
So today I kind of have three primary hats. I do a lot of different things, but the three primary hats are my for-profit side is I'm the co-founder and director of communications of a company called Stigma Solutions. Stigma Solutions is a marketing company that utilizes the internet to help people tell their story and raise money and raise awareness and market themselves. That company was built off the back of the experience that I had in 2015. So in 2015, I founded a small website design firm that I built a website for myself, and it was on Squarespace, and Squarespace back in 2015 wasn't necessarily as big as it is today. And people didn't really know what template websites were. And I found out about it, and I was like, I'm going to try it. And I taught myself it. And then I looked up what I would have had to have paid somebody else to do what I did. And it was like $3,800. And it blew my mind. I'm like, if I can do this for myself, then I can do it for other people. So I started designing websites for people, and I did some free stuff and I did some paid stuff. And one thing led to another. I Googled myself one day and I was top 5 in San Diego. Oh, wow. Okay. That's cool. And then as the kid that didn't grow up with much, I bought myself a brand new Lexus. I was 23 years old. I bought a $550 belt. I bought shoes and clothes. And, you know, I grew up, and my family would always say, like, I wonder what the rich people are doing. You know, I wonder where they're at. And that's where I thought I needed to be. So I built this marketing thing, had all the money. I didn't like what it did to me. I didn't like the car. I didn't like the way people looked at me. I didn't like the way it made me felt. So I kind of threw it all away and moved into, I didn't throw it all away. It's a weird way to say it. I took the money that I made and I doubled down on a program to prevent violence against women. In parallel, throughout my life, I've witnessed and been let into the world of human trafficking and domestic violence and sexual violence. People that have been affected by it have let me into their lives and trusted me enough to let me really see what that looked like. And I thought, well, if I can build this thing that helps people make money and builds websites and social media and all that, then maybe I can build something that could make a difference and really help people. Yeah. So 2015, I shut down the website thing and I went into more of the nonprofit world and doing that kind of work, which leads me to the nonprofit side of me. So for-profit is the marketing company. Nonprofit is a foundation called the Your Truth Foundation. That foundation is a group of people that we provide education to kids to prevent violence and trafficking of women and children in Southern California. We're one of the only organizations that works on the prevention side. There are lots of people that work on the aftermath side and they're providing resources to victims, but there are not a lot of people that are willing to have conversations with kids about, those sides of the world. And we're one of the organizations that does that. A little caveat about the marketing company is, while I was in the nonprofit world, I had the marketing experience and I met other nonprofits that were doing incredible work, but didn't necessarily have the time or the resources or the know-how, or like they didn't want to manage their website or they didn't want to manage their Instagram, but those tools are so powerful. So I rebuilt Stigma Solutions to work in the for-profit sector. So we sustain ourselves financially by working for clients that pay us ultimately, so that we can turn around and provide marketing resources for free or like super heavily discounted to other nonprofits in San Diego and Southern California. Because when you help that group, it's crazy. When you help them raise another $1,000, or you help them get another 10 followers and they donate, you're helping somebody raise money to save a family or give somebody a home or give somebody clothes. Helping that sector is just exponential. It's not helping a corporation, helping another CEO buy another Lexus. It's a different passion. So for-profits, marketing, nonprofit is violence and trafficking of women and children, the prevention of it. And then I also developed the entrepreneurship program at a continuation school in Poway called Abraxas High School. I was able to steal a teaching credential. There's a way in California, if you have enough hours in a industry, that you can get something called a CTE credential, which is Career Technical Education. And turns out I have enough business experience to get a teaching credential. And the principal there was on board. And he said, yep, if you jump through all the hoops to get that thing, we'll bring you on. So I don't currently teach because we're on quarantine, but I teach one period a day. I've developed their entrepreneurship program at Abraxas High School in Poway. So 3 things,
Wow,
a lot of different stuff, but yeah, it's been a journey.
What does that entrepreneurship class entail for those kids?
It is, I always pitch it as it's everything that everybody should have learned that they didn't. So I bring in guest speakers. I teach 5 different units. The first unit is on self-awareness. Even though it's called entrepreneurship, I don't believe that everybody should try to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. So I break it up into 5 different sections. The first one's on self-awareness, like who are you? What makes you happy? Do you want to be on our team? Do you want to be by yourself? What motivates you? That kind of stuff. Second unit is studying entrepreneurship. The third unit is on garage selling and how to sell things, like how to flip things on the internet, like go to a garage sale, buy something for $2 and sell it for $20 if you can't make your rent. The fourth unit is on employeeship. So what does it mean to get a job and be on a team and negotiate a raise and interact with a manager? And then to wrap the class up, it's 45 days long. The last 9 days is their final project of like, okay, we've learned a little bit about yourself. We've learned a little bit about these 3 different areas of business. Where do you think that you'd be best suited, and what are your first steps out of high school, and how are you gonna move towards where you think you would do best? It's kind of the summary.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Are you going to take that nationally?
I think so. I've had a couple people ask if we could do it at other schools, and I think I'm going to get into like systematizing a little bit and probably teaching staffs and some other places, because I think that we're moving back into that more of like less college is the golden road and more of you really need to figure yourself out and figure out where you're strong to be successful in this economy. So I think I would love to take that national. I would love to talk to other schools about it. It's been pretty damn successful at Abraxas. The kids really enjoyed it.
Even virtually, right? Like that class. Yeah. People.
Yeah.
I know adults that would want to take that class.
Yeah. If anybody watching this, or if you know anybody that would be interested in lighting the fire into that, I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, that's amazing. So we have to talk about that now. So tell me a little bit, I guess, about how, especially with where we're at now and this new norm that we're all in, how are you guys as a business handling it? And
go ahead.
And personally?
Personally, it hasn't impacted me too deeply. During my exploratory years, younger 20s, later teens, I started racing motocross, and I've been injured and hurt a lot. And I've really developed practices for when something happens that's somewhat out of your control, how do you deal with it? And what do you do? And personally for me, it's just I'm almost delusional. It's I don't look at how it could have been or how it should have been. I just push that in my head and I go, okay, this is the new reality. And then I
Yeah.
try to find the positives, and I say like, okay, good. Like we have more time to read books. We have more time to connect with people. I've seen my family a lot, like really just delusionally looking at the positives of this is our new environment for the moment. And there's always opportunity in a new environment, and what can we do? And as far as a business, I mean, the way I'm looking at it is that there is some opportunity here for us to connect with other people, because if there's a brand or a customer or a connection that you want to reach out to or that you want to connect with, now is a really crazy time to do it, because there's contacts that I've shot like 8 or 9 emails to that haven't answered back to me, that I shot 1 to over this break, and I had a phone call with them in the next 20 minutes. Like,
Wow.
people's calendars are clear. There's more attention on the phone. There's more attention on the computer, and people are pretty open to connecting with other people right now. So this is kind of the time to communicate and connect. It's not necessarily the time to sell. I don't think it's the time to support. So like one of our algorithms or one of our strategies is like 90% give and 10% ask. Is if you can truly give, like whatever industry you're in, whatever, I mean, us being in the marketing industry, we're giving away 90% of our information. Like 90% of our posts are just us giving away our process. And the reason for that is because you'll be able to reach people that you never would have been able to reach on a sales pitch or on a like a cold call. If you just give to them and you establish yourself as an authority or as a leader or somebody that people can look to. And then when this blows over 6 months, 12 months, 2 months, 24 months down the road, you can ask, and it puts you in a position to be able to kind of ride out the long term. I don't really see like a short term fix for this, but being able to give to people I think is always good for business, and is always good for people.
There's a lot of people right now that are really pushing everyone to get online, right?
Yeah.
Like every ad I see on Facebook is how to start my new online business.
Yeah.
So you being a marketing company that is really like heavily based online, are you seeing these people that are just coming at you left and right? Like they need to start this business, and like you said, you already know to teach people. Maybe you shouldn't.
Right.
So
right. Yeah. I mean, it is something. I think that the way that communication is going has been fascinating for a long time, and that, I mean, traditionally over the last 100 years, the way we've communicated as humans has changed drastically. I mean, we started with a newspaper, and then the newspaper turned into the radio, and the radio turned into the TV. And now the TV is dying, and social media and the cell phone and my laptop are becoming the new TV. And those platforms are where all businesses advertise, and where all businesses is kind of done. And I think that this instance has kind of just been an amplifier. It's kind of pushed forward what was already happening. I don't think everybody should start an online store, but I think it's definitely something you should think about if it aligns with who you want your business to be. I think that right now we're seeing, like, if you did have an online shop set up and Corona hit and everybody wanted your product, it was pretty advantageous. So it definitely works, and there's really no reason not to. I think the only reason not to is if it doesn't align with your brand strategy, or it doesn't align with what you want your business to be. If you are an in-person person and that is who you want to be, and you want to create physical events and people to be able to connect physically, then by all means double down on who you are. But if you're interested in making an online business, there's a ton of resource and support for you right now out there. And there are a lot of people out there who want your product, and we all need each other at the moment. We all need each other's products. We need each other's services, just in a different way.
Yeah.
That's
awesome. Like with all the companies and things that you've done and everything that you've gone through, right? And you've been able to sort of miraculously find ways to deal with what's in your head, right? Like we all have through the time. Now where you're at, do you still just do it on your own? Do you look to other people now? Do you search for things?
It's funny. I was an introverted, shy, scared kid. And up until, I'm 27 now. So when I was 24, 25, up until around that age, everything that I did was solo. Everything that I did was, the classic definition of an introvert. Like, I could go and talk to people, but for like very short periods of time. And if I did, I would have to leave or like go back home or go to the beach and literally recharge. It took a lot out of me because it made me so anxious. And so much has shifted in me lately. in the last year or two that, I mean, I have a team of 8 people now for my for-profit, and I work on a school staff, and a lot has shifted in the sense that I think that I've become a lot less scared of people. And I realized that, you know, me becoming athletic and me becoming a boxing coach and me becoming, you know, successful, it all was a front for me, being not a front, but it was a way of addressing being scared of people without knowing that I was being scared. You know, I didn't label it like that. I was like, oh, I'm becoming strong. This is great. But I was doing it because I was scared. And when I actually identified what was going on of that fear of people, and I was able to address that, it changed a lot in me. And I've found a ton of benefit. Like when I work with my team now in 2 hours, I'll get done in 2 hours what I would have gotten done in 10 by myself. You know, it's like I'm energized by people. And I think that finding people that truly care about you and realizing how much having people you love in your life to be able to work with and spend time with makes such a big difference. It affected me deeply. I talk to people all the time now. I tell people like, what do you actually do? Like, you have all these titles, but what do you do for work? I'm like, literally 99% of my job is just communicating with other humans. Yeah, through texts or emails or phone calls or whatever. I mean, what I do is I'm a communicator.
And going from not communicating to now you communicate with everybody.
Yeah.
How did you pick up that skill?
I think this is something I'm still trying to figure out, is that was the kid that I was actually who I was and I've changed into somebody new? Or is this actually who I am? And the kid that I was something that I built to deal with the stress or to deal with the uncertainty. And I think that it's probably a little bit of both. It's hard for me to answer because I'm still like navigating that because this is all so fresh. But I think the unlock for me was that journaling process and this idea that the things that affect us are things that we believe, right? Like, there are things that we all have soft spots for, whether what we're saying to ourselves hurts us or what other people are saying to us hurt us. And the real reason why it hurts us is because we believe it, which is a good thing. And I think that people naturally hear that from me and they're like, oh, that I don't believe it. That's bullshit. I'm like, no, but you do a little bit. And that's a good thing because there's learning in that. Yeah. There's learning in like, why do you believe this? And my practice, a lot of it was sitting with the thing that was painful for me. Was why was I shy? I didn't want to be shy. My uncle was one of the most charismatic people ever. He was my super like role model, and he could sell anything to anybody. And he had friends. Every liquor store we went to, grocery store, he knew everybody's first name. He knew everybody's story. And I always looked up to him and I wanted to be like that. I didn't want to be the shy, threatened kid. And my practice of sitting down first thing in the morning and just sitting with the uncomfortable feeling and figuring out like, okay, what is it that I believe about this? Where does this come from? Because right now I'm okay. I shouldn't be feeling this, and grounding in that way. And then trying to take it apart and be like, maybe I'm thinking this, or maybe I'm reacting to something from the past right now, or maybe, you know, and doing it like every morning for 7 years. It takes a long time. You have to be super patient and you have to definitely put in those reps, but taking the time to figure out what it is that you believe about your fears, and then figuring out if they're real or not, you know, figuring out if they're rational. Because a lot of times they're not. A lot of times they're just, we can create entire universes in our heads that have things that have never even happened, that we need to be able to ground ourselves from. And figuring out what I believed was a massive game changer for me. And then also figuring out like, if you're a shy person and you want to be a shy person, that's dope. Like there are tons of amazing shy people in this world. There are tons of amazing extroverted, boisterous people in this world, but figuring out who you want to be, like it's very possible for you to change into the person that you want to be. It's just a matter of being honest with yourself about, I want to be something different. Okay, great. Let's be patient. Let's work on that. But if you are the way you are, like don't let anybody else pressure you into being the outgoing, loud person. Like if you're shy and quiet and you like to read books, that's dope. Do it.
I think that what you said about sitting with it, that to me, that's the key. Like, you know, like for me, when I moved here, essentially, like that last year was the worst year I've ever had. Yeah. And like since being here, I actually chose San Diego because they have really good energy. There's a lot of good energy in San Diego. There's a lot of like healers and people that are attracted to San Diego.
Where did you say you came from? Seattle? Okay.
Yeah. So
it's a different energy for sure.
Yeah. And so like, I owned a real estate company and it was crazy successful, but it wasn't aligning with who I was or wanted to be. And so it was just a battle every day to make that happen. And so like since being here, like that's all I've been working on. And that's what I'm in the middle of, is like sitting with those things, which is like, to me, it's that changes everything. The minute you can sit with something and be honest about it, because you're right, we make things up in our head. And our mind is a scary place. It can be a scary place. And it's sometimes just hard to sit there and say, like, this did happen to me. What did that effect have? Or actually, that is not what they said. You never heard them say that. So don't, like, there's all those stories that play in your mind constantly.
It's a narrative thing too. Is it, like, our judgment of the thing is usually always worse than the thing itself. Like, if you got rejected or you got turned down or you failed or something terrible happened to you, it's the way that we build the story of ourselves afterwards that hurts more than the thing. You're not worthless. You're not unworthy of love. Not everybody's going to abandon you, but it's the story that we create afterwards. Like, see, that's why I'm a terrible person. And reframing that narrative of like, no, let's just let it be what it is. Let's just let that thing sit over there. Like, that happened, or you think this about yourself, or you're shy or whatever. Just let that be over there. And then try to notice how you're talking to yourself about that thing. That shift in the narrative is everything, because the judgment of ourselves hurts so much more than the thing that happened 6 years ago or 2 months ago or whatever.
And who taught you to do the journaling?
Podcasts. I mean, I'm very much so like self-taught and self-instructed. So I read this quote when I was like 18, and I hadn't read a book. I hadn't touched a book until I was like probably like 19 or 20. But I found this quote, and it said that geniuses learn from the mistakes of others, and regular people, normal people, learn from their own mistakes. And it was just the simplest statement that just really resonated with me of like, they're right. If I read or listen to other people and about the things they've gone through and how they navigated life, maybe I can navigate things a little bit faster or miss some of the mistakes that other people made. So I listened to this podcast. It was a Tim Ferriss show. It was like the second episode of the Tim Ferriss podcast. He had this guy named Josh Waitzkin on. And Josh Waitzkin is a crazy individual. He was the character that they based the Bobby Fischer character off of in that movie. And he's a performance coach for top executives. And the journaling practice came directly from him and something I was listening to. And the way he set it up was that most people sleep with their phone next to their bed. It was probably like 2012 when I listened to this, something like that. Most people sleep with their phone next to their bed. And that when you wake up in the morning, if the first thing you do is you check your phone, then the first thing you're doing is reacting. You don't have a chance to have any original thought. Whether that text is good or it's bad or it's neutral, it's going to make you think something. And that something is coming from the outside world into your brain. And then you're going to walk downstairs and you're going to see something, and you're kind of just like in this emotional whirlpool. You're reacting to everything around you all day long. So what he would do with his clients is he would have them move their phone away from their bed and go sit down. And from a performance perspective, just have them think about what they needed to work on, like top executives or whatever. Have them think about, from this state of like unreactive flow, what they should work on. And for me, I just tried that, and I thought about it, and then I really went down this journey of like, oh, I feel really dark in the morning. I'm really nervous. I'm really anxious, and just kept at it in this unreactive state of, okay, these are the first things that I'm thinking of in the morning. Cool. That's all right. But why? And just putting in the reps every single morning. Sit down and write 2 sentences or 2 pages, and just weeding through the brain. Why do I believe that? What do I believe? Why do I believe that? Where did that come from? It gets really deep, but it is, I always tell people it's the most important and the hardest work that you'll ever do. It changes everything, but it's the most difficult thing ever.
Where do you think that desire that you have to be better came from?
This is super conceited, but like ever since I was a kid, I've like lived in extremes where I've always thought that I'm like the best thing ever, but that I'm also nothing. Like I'm the best thing in the world. Like I'm super capable. I can talk and I can communicate. I can do anything with anybody. Even if I failed, like it was delusional. I just felt that there was this like extreme capacity in me. Maybe my parents instilled it in me, or something I saw along the way. I haven't found that answer yet. hopefully I will. But either I was the best thing ever or I'm worth nothing. And the way I think of that is being worth nothing is like, if I died tomorrow, like, yeah, people would be sad and there would be a funeral and people would say nice things. But 6 months from now, I mean, Kobe died a month and a half ago. That's completely out. Like, that was Kobe Bryant. Like, we are here to leave something. And the way that I find that balance is through kind of being in both ends of it. Of like, I'm the best thing ever. I'm super powerful. I'm super capable. But if I died tomorrow, then, you know, people would be sad, but the world would keep moving. Not in a morose way, just in a regular way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, I mean, yeah, like I love all this. So thank you for just.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I think it's beautiful that you're providing a platform for people to get into more of this side of things, because it's the reason why I teach it as the first unit in my lesson for entrepreneurship, because I think that this is the unlock, that there is not a business tactic or an amount of money that's going to help you win if you don't get this thing right. Like, we're so good at creating, like, this phone, this technology, this house I'm sitting in, the car that's downstairs. Like, those are all beautiful, you know, innovations of human power and willpower and collaboration and profit. And they're all incredible things, but we're so good at that, but we haven't figured out any of this. Yeah. And if we don't, I believe if we don't figure out this, it's all for nothing. Because if we're not happy, if we can't create, if we can't stop destroying each other, if we can't stop hurting each other, we can't stop hurting ourselves. If we can't figure that piece out, like, what the hell are we doing any of this for? That's great. You have a bigger TV, but we need to figure out this piece.
No, I mean, when I first thought I wanted to do a podcast, I thought, well, first, I'm crazy. I shouldn't be on camera. Like, that was not my go-to. But I knew, like, if I wanted to do this, I would have to somehow get comfortable, right? Like, being on a camera.
Yeah, for sure.
But I knew, same thing to you. I'd read something when I was like 19 that the way that I would do it was by learning other people's stories first, and then I could do it better or faster or something. Exactly. Avoid those mistakes. And so I first thought, okay, yeah, we'll do this with successful people. We'll learn their route, and then we can all pull something different from it, right? Mm-hmm. But the more I thought about it, the more I want to say it was in some class in college, I learned this, how we as humans identify ourselves. So it goes from I to us, because then it's you and your parents, to then them, because then it's your parents, and you realize there's people that are not your people. And then at the end, we're supposed to end at we, because actually you realize it's a collective. We're all together in this together. Yeah. And that thought mixed with this, I was like, there has to be a way that we can talk to people, hear their story, but at the same time, hear it in a deeper way, to where then I can actually connect to that person and say, oh, this is a we now. It's not just you did this and I did this, and I'm going to take a piece and go. It's like, you know, I feel connected to these people. And I just thought, we're in a time, and I think especially right now, I didn't plan for this virus, but with this virus especially, it's like we're so disconnected, and we're so focused on seeing the differences in each other, especially these last few years of focused on how different we are and how that's supposed to be good, but people are using it in such a negative way that I just thought, like, why can't we start focusing on like this shared human experience that we're all going through, which is success and struggle. Yeah. And how do we all deal with it? And how does it present itself in each other's lives? And can we find a common idea of we're humans going through life together? And that's what I wanted to feel, is how is it being human?
Yeah, I love it. I think that I've always tried to search for the reason for emotional pain. Like, why in the world do we experience such pain as humans? Like depression and anxiety and PTSD and all of the things that come with the brain. And why do we hurt each other? And the only thing that I've found is that maybe it is the one thing that unites us. Like you and I, like for sure, whatever skin color, the amount of money you have, where you're at, like we will both experience great pain in our lives. And that's one thing we'll always have in common, which is morose, but great all at the same time.
It creates a connection, and the connection is always going to be good.
Absolutely.
So before we wrap up, I have one question I always like to ask.
Beautiful.
And it is, if you could go back to your younger self, let's say your 18-year-old self, what would you tell them?
Yeah, it's tough. And I'm sure you get this answer a lot, but I wouldn't tell them anything, because if I told them something and did something different, I wouldn't be here. But I think that knowledge for 18-year-olds, or knowledge for my 18-year-old self, I think that self-awareness piece, that introspective piece of, I can look back now and see that kid was, that piece of coal I was talking about, that thing about me that I really trusted. I wish that kid would have known to have doubled down more on that, to not listen to other people as much and not have to try to fit into the mold. Like, yes, be practical. We all need to make money. We all just can't be like immediately right out the gate, like whoever we want to be, but to always know and honor that piece of myself that was so different, but was, the only reason why I'm sitting here talking to you. And to not be worried about it, to just like, you're different, and that is awesome. And you're going to find your path based on you being different. I think that is all of our individual strengths. Like, we are all made for so much potential, and we're so capable, and we have so much potential but each in our own ways of, like, that potential comes from our gift. It comes from how we are different. And I think it would have reduced a lot of anxiety for me to have just doubled down on that and be like, no, trust is a big thing for me right now. And I wish I knew about that more as a kid.
Well, that's a perfect ending. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
So much good. Like, I can't thank you enough. It's been awesome talking with you.
Absolutely. Likewise.
Right.
You're doing beautiful work.
Yeah, thank you. And you have a great day. And I guess before I go, how should people get in touch with you? Because you're doing
I think the best way to do it is just to contact me personally. My Instagram is probably the best way to do it. My personal Instagram is at @MattBurn_OWO, MattBurn_OWO. And I'm happy to talk to you or do whatever I can do.
Perfect. And businesses that want to get in touch with you to help with all the good stuff that you are doing?
Yes, likewise on my personal page, that same Instagram is a great way to do it, because it's anything that comes through there is something that I can relay to the teams that I work with, or anybody that, can help collaborate or whatever we need to do.
Awesome. Well, Thank you again, Matt, so much. And
thank you.
Have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy. And I hope we actually can talk in person sometime soon.
Yeah. I know. I would love to meet in person. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. All right. You guys have a great day.
Yeah. Bye. Take care. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks again for stopping by In Your Mind, and a huge thank you to Matt Iske. So much good info. I hope you guys got as much from it as I did. Make sure to check back next week. We're here every week. And don't forget, subscribe, share, leave comments, and always get in touch with you. We want to hear from you. But we'll see you next week.